Welcome to the Boom Bap Kingdom. This is not how I wanted to come back. I didn't want to, I filmed a bunch of content. I got stuff coming, working on the website. I got drum packs coming. A lot of people asking me where I get my drums from, yada, yada, yada. That's just from decades upon decades of digging in the crates. So the reason why I'm back, and this is unscripted, I'm just going off the dome. I've been following the MPC, the Akai MPC debacle, if you will. The controversy between, YouTubers like Ave Mcree, opinions from Bolo, the producer, reviews from other big time YouTubers, and comments from the OG EA Ski. Now, just to put this into perspective, I'm an OG at this, okay? Just because y'all don't know me doesn't mean I haven't been around for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been doing it with and for a lot of name guys. People that know me, they know the science. I don't even have to get into all that. But yeah, I'm the original owner of this MPC 60. To put it in perspective, we know 60 came out in 89, right? I started making beats on the Lindrum, went to the Ensoniq EPS, the SP1200, and then the MPC 60. So there's a lot of controversy, going on about the sound of the new MPCs and this and that and the third. Long story short, what I think has occurred here, and let me sit my baby down because I'm proud of this joint. I made a lot of heat on this joint. And I'll never get rid of this machine, okay? So I'm gonna sit her down nice and neatly, just so you guys understand. At any rate, there were some YouTubers, I'm not throwing darts, I'm not gonna go crazy, but there were some YouTubers that were saying things like they had people looking at code and saw, names in there, MPC XLs and, all this kind of stuff. And I think YouTubers were alluding to Akai releasing a new MPC that was going to be the new version of the X. A lot of people were saying these kinds of things before the SE was released. So let's put things into perspective real quick. This is what you guys gotta understand. When you create a product, you have to extend the life of that product and do it in a manner that is profitable for your company. So above and beyond anything, all of these companies are trying to make money. We understand that. What you also have to understand is they make money off of you, right? Big time producers and stuff, they're not necessarily running around and buying 10,000, 20,000 units. They might buy one, just like you, okay? And there's a whole lot more of you than there are Dr. Dre's and Pete Rocks and whoever else you think is the hot guy, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So these companies are marketing to you guys, right? The people who are in their crib, that nobody knows who you are, you're never gonna get heard, you might just be a hobbyist, an enthusiast, or you might be grinding, but the odds are you're not gonna blow up, right? But you're still gonna spend your money, right? Akai And every other big time company, you name them, they're banking on that. They want you to go out and they want you to spend your cream. So here's the science. The conversations about sonics. Yes, that's very true. The modern gear, in some cases, is not going to sound out of the box as good as some of the classic gear. You could take a SP1200, an old school, SP1200, an MPC 60, a 3000, and that stuff is 12-bit audio, very old analog to digital converters. It's older gear, older electronics that is very warm and very punchy. My 8800 sitting over here sounds beautiful in comparison to some modern stuff. That's 60. I have a 4000. I have MPC Studio. That's when I started to notice the change, right? When you get from analog to digital and we start going into this whole real digital world, things don't sound the same. Now, here's the deal, right? If what you're looking for is vintage sound, go buy a vintage machine. They're out there. Rossum just, a little while back released his reboot of the 1200. We have the Isla S2400. I have one right here. I love the Isla S2400, right? You could get that vintage SP1200 type sound if that's what you're looking for. If you want that vintage MPC 63000, 2000 XL sound, go buy one. It's really as simple as that. On the other side of the same coin, you also have features and workflow, right? So what the consumer has to understand is that what a lot of these companies are looking at is features and workflow. They're not necessarily looking at recreating classic sounding equipment out the box. If you look, like I also have an Akai Force, one of my favorite machines. If you look in the Akai Force, if you look on any of these MPCs, you're gonna see that they have the vintage plugins so you can add those filters to your samples. They do understand to a certain extent that people still want that sound. If you're doing boom bap, if you're doing house, if you're doing lo-fi, you're gonna want that vintage sound. They get it, they understand, right? I think the disconnect came in when, shout out to EA Ski, if you look throughout Akai history, and this is, a lot of these guys on YouTube, they haven't really been doing this stuff that long. And you could tell, you know what I mean? You could tell based on how they speak about what they do. If you know your Akai history, Akai is notorious for making a nice piece of kit. It'll be out for a few years, and then they slap a paint job on it and call it a limited edition. They've done this multiple times, people. This is nothing new. It's nothing new, right? They did it with the 3000. They had the 3000. Then they made the 3000 Black. The 3000 Black edition was a limited edition. That's the edition that Jay Dilla was famous for using. They did it with the 4000. The original 4000 was white. Then they came out with a blue one. I have the blue one because I thought it looked doper. Let's keep it a buck. These paint jobs don't make it a better machine, right? So they're notorious for that. This is not new. What else is not new? When the 3000 was out and then the 4000 came, it was a big jump in the operating system. People want to, they don't know what they're talking about, bro. They want to say things like, oh, these are, the new MPCs or mini computers and this, that, and the third. Yo, you could rewind all the way back to the 4000. The 4000 is a computer. It is a computer. It was the first MPC that could connect to your actual computer, whether you had PC or Mac. You could use the Axis program, transfer files back and forth, create programs, etc., etc. It had a CD burner. It had 80 gig hard drive in it, 512 megs of RAM. You can max it out. Blah blah blah. Had the big screen, even though it wasn't color. Roland was a little ahead of that, right? With the 8800, they had the color screen, but at the end of the day, once you start getting into the realm of the 4000, the realm of the MV 8000, 8800, these things started to become computers because the industry understood there was going to be a shift from standalone beat making to beat making on laptops and desktop PCs and Macs. They knew this was coming. And if you look, when the 3000 came out, the 3000 users that adopted the 4000 had a heart attack. They were beefing. This is not, we don't like it, blah, 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 because the operating system was different. It was quite different from what they were used to. Fast forward, when the 5000 came out, the 4,000 users that adopted the 5, beefing, right? The 5,000 users are saying the 5 is better than the 4. The 4 is saying that the 4 is better than the 5, right? The 3,000 users are saying, but the 3 is better than the 4, and vice versa. So this whole divide in the MPC world, it's not new. It's not new. I've seen this a million times. So the problem is, one, these companies can't please everybody. They simply can't. They try to listen to the most frequent complaints. If they can, they could turn those into features or bug fixes, add them to the product, get them out there. They can't please everyone. The other problem is in the marketing. So in this instance, with this MPC SE, I believe, and I'm personally I'll blame it on the company, and then I'll blame it on the YouTubers themselves. Because A, they didn't have enough information, and B, Akai really didn't come out and say, hey, this is just a limited edition. It's got a little bit more RAM. It's got, a little bit more hard disk space, and we gave you guys more instruments. Outside of that, it's really a collector's item. That's all they had to say, right? So if you're new to MPC and you want to get a big boy, then the SE is probably dope for you. But if you're coming from the X to the SE, it's not really that much of an upgrade. So the science is that the YouTubers should have been more forthcoming with that type of information, right? The other thing is the company should have been more forthcoming with that type of information. But these beefs on which MPC is doper than the previous, this is not new, folks. This has been since day one, right? When the 60 came out and the 62 came out, a lot of the 60 users did not like the 62. I was one of them, right? My man had a 62. I didn't like the form factor. The screen didn't tilt. It was whack to me. So I didn't pick one up, right? And if you do the knowledge, what did Akai do for the 3000? They went back to the 60 form factor because they listened to the people that were complaining, right? That form factor was kind of whack. And low key, I think what they were trying to do was make it look more like an SP1200. When you really think about it, the MP62 looks up, it's kind of shaped similar to an SP1200 because EMU did the same thing, right? They had the gray, they had the SP12, and then the 1200, and then they made a 1200 black edition. Very rare, hard to find, but it's out there. So these guys, they're not doing anything outside of the playbook. In fact, they're going back to the old playbook. Let's slap the gray paint on there. Let's make it look classic. Let's make it look retro. You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, yeah, there's new people coming, right? There's always going to be new guys that are learning how to make beats, and whether you want to admit it or not, in terms of standalone sample-based beat production, Akai is really the standard. It's really the standard. You're not getting around that. Now, are there other stuff out there? Sure. You know, you could jump on a Machine Plus. I got one of those. Super dope. The Force is dope, right? You just got to understand how it works. It's different. Very dope. You know, 2400 is dope. The Octatrack Mark II, super dope. The SP404 Mark II, super dope. What we have to do as beat makers and producers and whatnot is stop all of this brand loyalty. Go take a look at your setup, understand what you want to do, and then think about your budget and what machine you need to buy that's gonna take you to your end result, take you to your end goal, instead of drinking any corporate Kool-Aid from anybody. Because trust me, I was one of the biggest MPC heads. Once I migrated from Sonic to MPC, I didn't look back, and I would tell people, yo, I'm never doing nothing else but MPC, blah, 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 blah. Until MPC Studio rolled around, and I got that too, and I wasn't really feeling it. But I need people to just kind of understand that what's going on, this divide within the MPC community, this is nothing new in terms of audio quality. If you want that warmth, if you want that punchiness, go get an old machine, right? Get a vintage joint, you'll have all of that. What you won't have is the workflow. Because nowadays, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but nowadays I think to these corporations, workflow, to some of them, not all of them, because there's other machines out there that sound phenomenal, but I found a little hard to navigate, you know, like the Roland MC707. For me, the workflow it's not user-friendly at all, but it sounds fantastic. The Octatrack Mark II, I love the workflow and the sound. I thought I was going to need to know trigonometry to use this, you know, the OT2. And for me, I was able to, you know, pick it up and go in, and I love the way that machine sounds. So sonically, and I do strictly boom bap. I'm from New York, up top, 90s dude, golden era cat, like, you know, I do boom bap, and boom bap is gritty, especially obviously East Coast New York boom bap is super gritty. And you can still pull that off even on these modern machines. You, as the user, it's up to you to figure out how to get the sound you want out of the product. Takeaway here is this is nothing new, this divide in the MPC community, right? And if you want that vintage sound, you kind of gonna have to learn how to play with the machine, learn how to use, you know, some of the vintage filters in these machines, and learn how to use a little bit of compression, a little limiting, a little EQ, right? Certain plugins, so if you're dumping to PC or Mac in your DAW, you know, there's plugins that will allow you to tweak the sound, make things a little warmer, a little punchier. That's where you're at with some of these machines. Unfortunately, there's no getting around that. A lot of the dudes that are a little upset, one of the things that they don't quite understand too is that they're coming from the tape era. So trust me, I was, you know, tracking out to Ampex 456, 8-track and, you know, 16-track, etc. And, you know, dumping a 2-track. This is before digital, before DATs and all of that. And we all know that, I mean, I've even had 4-track recorders, you know, from Tascam. You see my board right here is Tascam. So at any rate, the board you use, recording to tape if you're a golden era guy, all of these things affected your sound. You know what I mean? All of them. So it behooves you to learn a little bit about compression, a little bit about EQ and limiting. You know, you don't have to push it hard to get the sound you want. There's filters that these machines are rolling out with that you can use that still will make your stuff sound a little warm. Do you have to work a little harder to make it sound like analog? Yeah, you do. You got to work a little harder. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But these are just tricks you put in your toolbox and add to your workflow. So at any rate, you know, I know I kind of went on a rant. You know, I'll have to edit this one down just to make sure that I'm making my point and you guys get it. So as always, I appreciate you guys checking me out here at the Boom Bap Kingdom, building with us, hanging out with us, you know what I mean? And hopefully I drop a jewel on you and you learn something and you can add it to your toolbox. Beat making videos are coming. I'll be back on YouTube pretty heavy. Like I said, the website's coming. I got drum packs coming, this, that, the third. You know, we'll be back. You'll see me really, really soon. I appreciate y'all rocking out with the Boom Bap Kingdom. I'm gonna leave y'all with a BBK salute. You know, shout to everybody that's reviewing the new MPC SE. Shout out to them. You know, and let's bring some unity back into this beat making culture. If it really wasn't for us, these companies would have nobody to sell this stuff to. You know what I mean? Let's keep this cipher spinning. Word is bond. All right. I mean, all of this divisiveness, we don't even need that. Not in the beat making culture. You know what I mean? All right, y'all. BBK salute. Peace.